To be honest, there are a million places that I would rather be right now than in Canada. But this is where I'm from, and it has been a very long time since I spent any time here. In 2015, I was 24 years old and I moved to Asia. I think I just wanted a change. I was looking for an adventure and something more exciting. And since 2014, I didn't come back here even once to visit. So I spent a very long time away from the life that I had known before. But I built a whole new life for myself in Taiwan. I learned a new language, I started making banana fish there, and the story includes everything that all good stories do, like adventure, romance, drama, and yeah, it was a very fun life. Then in 2022, in November, I decided to come back to Canada. I loved living in Taiwan, and I hope to again, but I think I just needed a change, and I needed a challenge, and I needed some perspective. I think the thing that I've noticed the most since being back in Canada is how settled life is here. It seems like everyone just stays home a lot of the time. And I think that's because of winter. Winter is so horrible, but I also just think it's a culture. People spend most of their time at home. People go straight home after work and they hang out with each other at home, and the recreational activities are mostly at home, especially during the winter. The winter is so bad. Like, if it was 3 months long, I think it would feel just like a nap. But since it's 6 months long, it honestly feels like you're just sleeping the whole day away. It's very boring and very depressing. And I will not do winter sports. Like, I don't want to do winter sports. That's not fun. I've skied a lot. I've skated a lot. I don't want to do that. Another change for me was how quiet it seems here, how boring it is. Like, everything closes at like 6 o'clock in the evening. And then, unless you want to go to like a bar or a restaurant and have like a sit-down meal, you just go home. Like, there isn't a lot to do. The cost of everything here is also really prohibitive. Like, I understand why most people just stay home all the time here. During the worst months of winter, I noticed that everyone in Canada always says like, oh, but the summer is so fun, the summer is so fun. And the summer is fun, but like, I don't know if it's worth it to like live in Canada just for the summer, because the winter is so super boring and oppressive. And then the summer is fun, but it's also just kind of like normal life for most of the world. Like, would the summer seem so fun if you hadn't just stayed home for 6 months? Because it seems like the thing that's most fun about the summer now is that people can just like walk around or sit outside without just being miserable. So, that is my opinion. I think as well, like, if the high cost of living made that you had a high quality of life, okay, good, but it seems like that is becoming less and less. But I realize that I'm spoiled to say that Canada sucks and is boring. Because although this place is super lame, it's like good in a lot of other ways, and I have to give it credit for that. I think the thing that's hard for me to see about Canada is what I actually learned from talking to just random people here. One of the good things about living in Canada is that there's lots of immigrants from everywhere all over the world, and in my experience, they offer up their story really willingly to you. I was talking to one old guy from Iran who was selling sunglasses, and he just told me his life story about how he was like whipped by the authoritarian government and fled the country and managed to get to Canada on like a fake Turkish passport. I've also talked to like gay people or LGBT people who come to Canada even though it's lame and boring, because this is a place where they can live freely and they don't have to hide themselves. I've even talked to people who are from countries in Europe who live in Canada despite the horrible weather because they can make a decent living here, and that's not something that was possible for them in their country. So I think what I learned from all of these people, which was a little hard for me to see, is that Canada is a place where you can really experience safety and security and freedom and have like a good life. I think this is what makes Canada worthwhile, despite it being lame for all of those superficial reasons I was talking about. For a few very important reasons, Canada is a pretty good place to live. And I think I'm also taking advantage of that side of Canada while I'm here. Like, I'm taking advantage of opportunities that weren't available to me in Taiwan, even though my life there was very fun and exciting. So even though Canada is super lame, I don't regret coming here or moving back here, because it has like given me a lot of perspective on myself and on other people's experience as well. In the story of the Great Banana Fish Migration, banana fish from all over the world stop what they're doing and they journey back to their ancestral homeland. For some banana fish, it's their very first time swimming the migration, and for others, they've done it many times before. But all of the banana fish go back to meet and connect in ways that only banana fish can when they're together. They converse and confide and tell stories, and they're together again after so long apart. The banana fish meet as the sun sets over the horizon, and when the sun rises again in the morning, they all disperse back to the oceans that they came from, back to their adventures and back to their old life. I wrote The Great Banana Fish Migration years ago, and when I decided I was coming back to Canada, I started working on it again. In some ways, the story of the Great Banana Fish Migration is similar to my own, and in other ways it's not. I realized preparing for this video that the story of the Great Banana Fish Migration is actually a story of sacrifice, because the banana fish don't swim the Great Banana Fish Migration because it's fun and interesting. They do it for all of the reasons that are kind of hard to list. The story of the Great Banana Fish Migration is quite obviously a story about homecoming and retracing your roots, but I've learned that it's also a story about sacrifice and about the benefit of doing something that you might not want to do. Like live in Canada.